Welcome to another edition of the Faith to Faith Gospel Cast. I've got a couple of cool kids from Brown University today. I'm a little scared to make fun of them because they're probably smarter than me. We'll be back right after this. Welcome to the Faith to Faith Gospel Cast, where we talk about all things related to God, faith, missions, leadership, side hustles, and what Jesus is doing in the next generation. I'm your host, Tommy Ashiro, and I want to welcome you to the program. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button and come back for a new episode each week. With all that said, let's jump into today's episode. And that is a true story. I started thinking about it up the stairs, and I'm like, I need to be very careful about this.
Zach is a chirper.
Ivy
No,
League.
what? I'm the friendliest.
Okay, so we're back with Jenna Reznicek and Zach Pryor, a couple of Brown students. Jenna, you just are graduating now, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be done in about a week.
And Zach, you are currently a student and continuing next year as well?
Yes, sir. Going to my senior year.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I get to live vicariously through you guys. I get to hang out on campus and pretend like I'm someone important too. But, yeah, I don't really belong up there.
You are, Tom.
You're important, Grandpa
Thank
Tom.
you so much. See,
Grandpa
that's how I
Tom.
fish for it. That's how. What is this? No.
Don't
bring in the
I don't know
grandpa.
where that came from.
They put the
I don't
compliment
know.
and masked it in the insult.
We
That's
would never do
terrible.
such a thing.
All right, let's get to know you guys a little bit. I got to meet you guys last year. Circuit Riders was doing an outreach on your campus, and both of you guys were already kind of linked up, and I was jumping into something that was moving already. But you guys, as students and Christian leaders on your campus, were organizing for some evangelistic outreach. So that opens up the conversation for lots of interesting things to talk about because, frankly, number one, Brown, and number two, Christian, things that probably haven't been associated together in a very long time. So tell me about what it looks like to you guys to be a Christian on campus.
Yeah, I mean, you're not kidding when you say that those two things clash, Brown and being a Christian.
Yeah.
And so the position we're in, it's very hard, and we can go into that more. I'm sure we'll go into that more later. But it's also a unique opportunity to be able to just be the hands and feet of the Lord. And I think we can both say that we've seen so much fruit from the conversations we've had, from the ministries we've been a part of and been leading in. And so it's hard, but when you see success, when you see someone see Jesus more rightly, or when you see someone understand the gospel, it's so worth it. And you just feel like, wow, I'm actually making an impact and fulfilling.
But were you ever really prepared for what it was going to be like here in the Northeast?
No. Colorado girl, Texas boy.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to talk about this is like what Brown is.
Okay,
I think a lot of people aren't like
do that.
really like familiar with like what Brown.
We'll go. What is Brown? And then we'll go. What is New England? Because I feel like both of those things can be a disconnect, probably. So, talk about Brown. Talk about what you thought it was going to be like versus what it actually is like. You know?
Yeah, I don't really think I had any expectations about
Okay.
what Brown was going to be. It's coming from Texas, like not many people went to Ivy Leagues. I was obviously blessed to be recruited for track and swimming. And so we wouldn't like originally be up here. Like that's pretty much the only way people went up to schools like this was for sports recruiting from Texas. And so just that, I didn't know what to expect. I just kind of wanted to go to a great school.
I feel like it's going to happen, so I'm trying to control it.
You're good.
Okay,
You're good.
go ahead.
And so I visited Brown, and I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I visited the best times, like the spring, so I got totally trapped. I was like, oh, this place is going to be paradise. I'm going to love it so much. I have to be here. And then I got up here, and it was nothing like I was used to. I mean.
All right, so what was the first shocking thing about coming to the Northeast?
Well, the weather hit pretty quick.
Okay.
Like just from like
Right.
a non like
Fall
religious
into
point of
winter.
view.
Yep.
Yeah, fall and winter hit quick. And then the rigorous nature of school combined with starting track at like a D1 level, like that really hit. and I was not prepared for that, and I had a really rough first semester.
Wow.
I also had probably the hardest, the worst time I've ever been in my life was right before I came to Brown. And so I came to Brown searching for something. And
Wow.
I can tell you I did not find that my freshman year. So the bottom of the bottle did not have what I thought it was going to.
Jeez. So you came up here, you're trying to run track. It's cold. Yeah, so you come in for the fall. That's pretty nice. You're like, oh, it's pretty. But it's just the preface for the deadness of winter.
My gosh.
Yeah.
The worst. It's horrible.
It's dark and cold for about 4 months straight.
Yeah.
You're more used to it, though.
I'm more used to it. I am from Colorado, so I'm used to the cold. But in Colorado, it's cold and sunny. Here, it's cold and gray.
Cold and gray, gloomy.
Yeah.
And then that kind of prepares your hearts for the spiritual condition of the area, right?
Very similar to the weather.
Cold and gray.
Yeah.
Yikes. So Colorado also feels kind of happy, like a happy place. Kind of like people are happy,
Yes.
outdoorsy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from Boulder, and everyone is outside 24/7 there. Very happy, friendly people. So yeah, I think that the people were just different. I think that was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
The people, their values, how they spent their time, how they interacted with other people, how they wanted to portray themselves, just different.
Yeah. So how did you handle the Northeast and Brown campus after your first semester in?
Yeah, I mean, so my sister went to school in the Northeast in New Hampshire, and so being like little sister Jenna, I watched her do that, and I was like, oh, I want to do that too. So that's how I ended up in the Northeast.
Well, where'd she go?
She went to Dartmouth.
Dang, two Ivy
So
Leaguers.
yeah, super following her footsteps.
Sheesh.
And
Can't relate.
It's overrated.
overrated, true. So I had exposure to what it was like, and just from what she would tell me and from visiting her. And so I think the transition was more smooth for me because I knew what to expect. And I honestly, the transition wasn't too bad for me, because I knew what to expect from my sister.
Yeah. So she kind of prepared you for the spiritual climate here too? Like she kind of understood that? Because New Hampshire's a little different.
Yeah, I would say she did. So she was also on the swim team at Dartmouth, and she would tell me about how like there are no other Christians on the team, and she hasn't been able to find a fellowship
Wow.
in the whole college that she aligned with, and she had a really hard time finding a church. So hearing that, I was like so worried about that going into college. But what I thought when I first came to Brown was like, I kept saying this, was like, the people who want to be at church, the people who want to be in the ministries will be there, not because their parents told them to or because they feel like they have to. So I thought that the people who are involved are like super on fire, and I think that's true to some extent, but not as much as I thought.
For sure. You're definitely not going to be in the cool club for flying the Christian flag on campus.
No.
In fact, I don't know. I think I might have talked to you about this. The only other time I went on Brown campus in the 20 years that I've been doing ministry was when a Brown student went down to Liberty and pretended to be a Christian for his paper at Brown.
That's right. I do remember you saying that.
Yeah. It was a best-selling book, The Unlikely Disciple, Kevin Roos. And I went on Brown campus to meet that kid because I was like, wow, that is wild. Like he went to Liberty, full participation, joined small groups, campus life, the whole nine. I think he even met Jerry Falwell, which was the president before he passed. And then he went back to Brown and turned it in as a paper, sold it as a book.
So interesting.
Yeah, wild thing to do. Wild thing. But you guys are kind of the other way around. You guys are Christians that have to sort of like go to this really really highly acclaimed, highly academic environment and fit in and have Christian values. Like, how did you find your footing of where your boundaries were, and how did you hold that line? Because there was no lines, right? So how did you figure out how to do that?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to have a little different answer than Jenna is.
Okay.
I had to fall first.
Okay.
My freshman year, I kind of went off the deep end
Okay.
to some respect. I mean, partying, stuff like that, drinking. Yeah. And so I had to really come to the end of my rope. Additionally, I tore my labrum in my hip my freshman year, and so I didn't really get to run all that much, and I didn't find what I wanted to in track. And so I was just kind of looking for something, looking for anything. I got back to church every now and then. Jenna took us to church. But it wasn't a serious search for anything. And so eventually I, against all odds, got an internship at my church, my student ministry at home, mega church back in Texas, and was absolutely blessed to be poured into by peers and by pastors and by people who truly lived the way I didn't believe people lived. And that just kind of changed everything for me. Like, it just kind of showed me how empty the life I was living was and how beautiful the life I could be living is. So that kind of set me on a path of, like, I need to change who I am around. But I think the interesting thing is that it didn't make me like Brown more. It didn't make me have more fun at Brown. It didn't make me enjoy my time more. If anything, it made me enjoy it less. And so, like, I wouldn't say I'm happy at Brown. I don't think that's something that's guaranteed. But I think the joy that I've been able to find through my ministry, through different sports, through all the random things I've done at ROTC, has truly changed who I am as a person and who I am as a follower of God, but not in the way that I thought I was going to.
All right, let's hear from you, Jenna. What do you think?
I would say I followed a similar trajectory.
Oh, really?
To Zach. Yeah. So my freshman year, my whole life I was Christian. I would call myself a Christian, but I didn't actually know the gospel and know what it meant to, like, live for Jesus until sophomore year. So my first year I went in, and as a freshman, you want to fit in and you want people to like you and you want to seem cool. And especially going into the swim team, I was on the swim team at Brown, you want to look like the other girls and do what they're doing and fit in with this already established group of girls and the way that they function together. And so, yeah, I would say definitely stumbling with drinking and boys and just trying to fit in with all the girls. And then I went to, I volunteered at a youth ministry camp for a month over the summer after my freshman year. And that is when I actually grasped the gospel, and I was surrounded by people who really, like, lived their lives in a way that, like, their lives weren't their own. They lived their lives as if their lives were bought by the blood of Jesus, and they were just surrendered to God. And I saw that for the first time ever. And so that completely shifted what it meant to me to be a Christian and to, strive to hate your sin and to just, like, live a gospel-centered life. And I would say, similarly to Zach, it didn't necessarily make me enjoy my Brown my Brown experience more, because I think the more I understood good and evil, I understood how broken Brown was and how broken the people were. And I think that this, like, set apart idea, just the like discrepancy just grew the more I learned about the Bible and the more I learned about God. And I think, like, ever since then, now being a senior, the 3 years since has just been a continuous journey of, like, okay, in this place of so much brokenness, how can I, one, strive to take up my cross daily and be set apart, and two, how can I, like, spread this light and love of Jesus that these people don't know?
That's interesting. So you did outreach to Zach when Zach was on a bender. Is that what I just heard, low key?
Of sorts. I would say Jenna played a huge part, like my freshman year.
Pulling you back
and
in?
coming back and showing me
It's pretty
that it
cool.
was still possible. I don't know how much she realized that. I still remember we had one conversation in one of our mailroom building, just for like hours, just talking about faith and my testimony and all the stupid things that I've done. And that was, I still think about that conversation, right? I mean, that was such a blessing to be able to do that. And then just keep going back to church. I think that was the biggest thing that she did, is she always offered an opportunity to keep coming back, and was never judgmental about any of it. And certainly I'm not the only person. She's done that too. So she's been very, very good at that.
That's cool. So by the time I met you guys, you must have been a sophomore, and you were a year ahead, right, junior? Yeah. And by then, I met you both as Christian leaders on campus. So the ascent to leadership happened pretty fast.
Real quick.
I guess. Maybe less so for you, but for you.
Mine was real quick.
I mean, wow. I honestly think that the quickness of that was because there's just a lack of leaders. Yeah. And so when there is someone who shows up with the potential, I guess, the like big leaders of those ministries are like, oh, you come here.
You got to step up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Well,
yeah. So I to touch on that.
Yeah.
After I did my internship at my church and like spent the entire summer just like for the Lord.
Yep.
Like waking up every single day and like I am whatever the Lord needs me to do today, I'm doing. Before I even got to campus, I called one of my buddies who was a part of a ministry that we both have went to a couple times called Athletes in Action. I was like, hey, I really want to get involved, but at that point I'd left the track team, and so I was like, I don't want to do Athletes in Action because I'm not an athlete anymore. Like, how can I get involved? And he immediately like put me on leadership and on a ministry called Christian Union, and like high leadership in the ministry. So like I was leading the entire outreach team for the entire ministry.
Wow.
Before I even like lived my life as a Christian on Brown's campus, like my very first event with this ministry was as a outreach team leader.
Wow.
So it was a lot.
So who was driving the Circuit Riders event by the time I turned up? Which one of you was?
Jenna, for sure.
You were driving that?
I was.
Yeah.
Wow. How did that come about?
So this was the Lord, because I remember I went my sophomore year. I saw a flyer or something. I was like, okay, word, I'll show up.
There was one sophomore year?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know who organized it. I don't know who ran it. And I showed up, and I must have put my phone number and email somewhere on like one of the feedback forms or something, because then in October the year after, I just got a call. I was walking around in Boston with my friends, and I got a call from an unknown number, and I was like, oh, I think I'll take this. And it was one of the circuit riders, and she was like, hey, Jenna, like, will you help us organize the next one? And I had no idea how she even got my contact information. I was like, yeah, okay. And then it just carried on from there.
Wild. So the second or the sophomore year, was that the first time that they came? That one?
They have come in the past.
I'm not sure.
I think I remember seeing like an Instagram story highlight from like 2018 where I think they came to campus. Yeah.
Okay. How well attended was that first one that you went to?
It was 40 people.
I didn't go.
Yeah.
Oh, the first one I went to.
Yeah,
the first one.
Yeah,
I would say similarly to the second. I would say around 40 people.
Okay. So pretty small events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought of it as a dig though. Like when I walked in there for you guys' event, I was like, wow, this is pretty good for Brown. This is
it's
sweet.
True. Yeah. I remember after one event, in transparency, after the Circuit Riders event this year, I went to my room and I started tearing up because I was just so discouraged by how even the Christians at Brown won't even show up to these events after texting and inviting and talking to them in person. So that just kind of gives a glimpse into how hard it is.
But I would say, and both of you, actually, if we'd done this podcast a year ago off the back of the one that I went to, that was pretty good. That was a good year. It was a good year to meet you guys.
Yeah.
It was a good year to see just you guys both had a really good energy on campus, and I was like, I get it. Like student leaders, I was already thinking, well, just for you to get this far in the process, you have to have some kind of cojones because already everything's against you to just get started.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
So when I start telling my pastor buddies, hey, I'm going up to Brown because they're doing an event, an outreach event. People are like, what? Like the surrounding community was surprised to hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's interesting is because of that disconnect between what's happening on campus and like the church community at large, probably there should be some version of more support for you guys, but things are just disconnected up here in general.
Yeah.
Beyond the university. So, so finding you guys actually was a little bit of a breath of fresh air. And I was very encouraged to see you guys. And some of those images are burned into my brain because we have this photographer, Nevaeh, who took some really great photos. Really great photos of both of you guys, actually. Some of them have actually been in my newsletters and stuff like that.
No way.
There's this one epic one of you, Zach, with your cowboy hat. And you're praying like this. We're going to put that on the screen right now.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
a
funny.
brilliant
Another
photo.
picture.
Yeah, it's
That's
a great
good.
photo.
Epitome of Zach Pryor.
Yeah, and some really great photos of you, Jenna. Like my early impressions of you was like someone who said yes, a little uncertain of themselves, but from the outside looking in, I could see there was a leader there. So like unsure, but hey, I'm going to go for it and trust the Lord, and it's stretching me, but okay, you know, like this is real for me. So I saw that in the two of you guys right off the bat, and I wanted to know you guys. Even though the Rick event was bigger, I met 0 leaders at Rick. I didn't even try. So from my perspective, the fruit of all of that was the two of you. And that's why you're here, sitting here now. Even though you're war-torn and beat up a little bit from continuing to walk out that Christian journey on campus, from my perspective, I see legitimate Christian leadership in front of me. And I appreciate the both of you very much.
Well, thank you, Tom. That means a lot.
Yeah. And in fact, you know, not to tell all my side quest stories, but just thinking of how do I engage these guys and get them moving in different ways. And actually, I was thinking, is this weighted Jenna? It is weighted a little more Jenna than Zach, but not completely, because I accessed my Rolodex to help both of you in different ways, right? So from your perspective, it was a military guy, friend from the Berkshires, and you connected up with that guy as you think about next places to go.
Yeah.
From you, actually, it started sooner because camera gear, like you were like, oh, I want to do media. I'm not so sure. And I'm like, well, it's like, let's play the odds. Let's do a local play and let's do a national play. So it was like, locally, let's put a camera in her hands and see what happens. So I had a set of gear that's been floating around the community that we were like sharing gear, and I could see that people were outgrowing stuff. So I always donate my gear to Gen Z, try and circulate it around. And I could notice the girl who was using that gear had moved on to her next best gear. And I was like, give it to Jenna. She's like, okay, fine. All right, fine. So I pushed for that to happen to see if something would materialize locally in that regard. And then on the national side of things, you got one of the invites to a female leaders retreat in Texas.
Yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So Tom was not giving me many details. So I was like, I feel like this could be like a kidnap situation.
I didn't even go.
Come on.
and I was like, all right, Lord, like, I guess there's an opportunity. I'm going to see it through.
You're like, my parents aren't going to let me go. And I was like, all right, you're lost.
My parents were like, so this guy you don't really know is inviting you to Texas. Anyways.
But technically, I wasn't even going.
Yeah, you weren't going.
Yeah, it was nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Anyways, I show up and I realize it's all these girls these like Christian influencers who I've seen on Instagram, and I was like, what am I doing here? So when I first got there was certainly some like imposter syndrome, but then throughout the retreat it was kind of twofold. So one, like, yeah, on paper I should not be here. Like all these girls have dedicated their lives to ministry and have done incredible things and have shared the gospel with a bajillion people. And I was feeling like, wow, like, what am I doing here? But also, God, you love me so much that you allowed me to be in a room with all these girls and learn from all these girls. And also that people's mission fields don't all look the same. And he doesn't care about success and numbers, but rather like obedience. And also just being surrounded by those girls who are so on fire for the Lord. I really had never seen so many girls with that much zest for God. And I learned so much from them about how God just wants all of me. I think I learned from seeing them how much I was still in the world. And so,
but you're fighting on the front lines too.
Yeah, I think it's different.
It's a little different, and you're representing Jesus in a place where it's super dark.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things running through my head for the reason you got that invitation.
Yeah.
Number one, sorry, you want to say something, but I'm just going to give you my reasons. Number one, yep, it's super dark at Brown. Number two, clearly leading on campus, the best that you could, giving your best, yes, giving a run for it. That's what I saw. Number three, what happens when you put a leader who hasn't fully embraced their potential in a room with other leaders who are starting to do that, and then send back? Yeah.
I think going on that retreat, it wasn't just for me, but it was for the group of girls who I lead. And so, yeah, gosh, that retreat was such a blessing, and thank you, Tom.
It was so cool. My pleasure.
Yeah, I think like I just being around all those leaders just made me want to be a better leader, and made me want to like know Jesus and know the word more so that I could lead those girls better. And they were just like so full of the Spirit and so full of giftings. It was just like I really hadn't experienced something like that before.
Oh, those girls are all accomplished in different ways, but you're also accomplished in your own way. Let's talk about swimming this year.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, okay, Division I swimmer. First thing that I learned from you is that you get no scholarship for all that effort.
True.
That's crazy. Explain
So
that.
true.
Explain it to the audience real quick. How it works to be an athlete on campus.
Fine. I'll take that one out.
Explain it.
So Ivy Leagues are not allowed to give out any
that's
athletic
more
or
than Brown.
academic scholarships. Yeah.
It's more than Brown.
Yeah, all Ivy Leagues, no athletic or academic. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, how fast you are, swimming, running, whatever you are. You don't get any money.
I didn't know it was academic either.
Yeah, it's all, they don't give out any of that money.
But Harvard, you can go there for free if you're poor.
Yeah, so even Brown gives out really good like needs
financial.
Gotcha.
That's like all any Ivy will give out.
Gotcha.
Technically.
Well, I'm poor, so maybe I could have run.
Yeah,
with you
let
guys.
them know.
Yeah.
And so that does like most people will not go to the schools if they can't afford them for sports. Sports is typically like the inroads to get into that school. So that's what you get in lieu of the money. You get admittance, a little bit of easier admittance into these schools. So like, I mean, like I wasn't smart enough to get into Brown. I mean, I was fine. Like I wasn't a bad student. I had a fine GPA, I had a fine SAT, fine extra credit, extracurriculars, all that stuff. But not Ivy League material, especially coming from Texas. And so I needed something extra to help me get in. And so the way I think about it is like these schools are the top 1% of schools, and they want the top 1% of students. And top 1% of students isn't just top 1% of academic. It's the top 1% of athletes, top 1% of arts, top 1% of everything. And so that is where we find our presence. We are the top 1% of athletics.
You were a 1% runner?
I think if you looked at like totally, I mean, probably, I don't know. I mean, I would have been close to it, top 1-2%. I mean, I think anyone competing at the D1 level is top 1 or 2% of their sport. Maybe a little more than that.
I mean,
maybe
coming
top, like,
in,
5%.
like, were you like a big runner?
No. I was I was fine, but even in Texas, I wasn't making like state meets.
Zach is being pretty humble. He was really fast.
All right, you
All
tell
right.
us about that. How does that work for Zach? So
I'm not super familiar with the running world, but I know he was a dog.
I was
He
I
was
was
a
fine.
dog.
Like genuinely, I was not like super great, but I was a good enough runner
to make the team.
And I talked to like other schools, and even in football, I talked to a couple schools for football and stuff. So just in general, I'd only began running track my junior year, really, and so any recruiting I had was based on running for 2 years seriously. And so I mean, obviously, like the Lord blessed me. Like I probably did not deserve to be a Brown, didn't deserve to be where I was. But
Oh wait! And now you just joined the what?
yeah. So I left the track team after my freshman year for my faith, and then got really where I wanted to be in my faith, and then now I just walked onto the football team.
Walked onto the football team. So, I don't know if I'm good enough, but he's now got its second Ivy League sport.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed. Very
Yeah,
blessed. That's a dream come true.
I think you're blowing
It's a
smoke
dream
up my
come
butt,
true
dude.
coming from Texas.
I
playing
think you're
football.
joking a little bit. Okay, and you're a swimmer. Tell us about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I started swimming when I was like 7, and I didn't think I would swim in college. I didn't really even think about that as a possibility. And then I saw that it helped my sister get into an Ivy League school. And so I was like, okay, word. Committed to Brown, and it's
Then smashed all their records.
Oh yeah.
Bam!
Oh yeah.
Did that happen in previous seasons, or that you were saving it all?
She's
for
been
the end?
doing that. She's been doing that since she got there.
Oh, she's been smashing them
Jenna's
all along?
always been like getting records and killing it. Like
Okay.
when was the first time you placed at Ivies?
my freshman year.
There it is. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
I committed to Brown, and then I had I had a really good year after committing. And so I would say that I had literally just, the Lord bless me, this is by the grace of God. I had a pretty immediate impact on the team. And yeah, just throughout my 4 years at Brown, I've learned, like, God has taught me so much through sport, and it has been such a source of happiness. And I really love competing. I love the process. I love being an athlete. And on the other side of it, especially now, I'm like thinking about all those aspects of my life that are missing, and it's giving me this appreciation for that experience I got to have. And then also gratitude for what I learned as an athlete and being able to take that into different facets of my life post grad.
Yeah, so like after meeting you guys, I'd committed to come up and watch you swim one time.
Yes.
And so I spent the next 4 months texting Zach with no response.
Oh, I'm the worst.
Bad.
worst.
And
I'm so
in the
bad.
end, I just left you.
No, that's
and-
totally deserved.
And Avery
Very
flew in and
deserved.
we showed up and surprised you at your Yale meet.
Yes, it was awesome. It was so much
That
fun
was
to see you
super
guys
fun.
in the stands.
It was super fun. Because I've never been to Yale for anything either, even though it's down
Yale's
the road
awesome. Yale's
a
cool.
little bit. I was like thinking, okay, on one day when it was match at Brown, it's about the same distance from right where we are right now to drive either direction. And so I thought, oh, Yale might be fun. So, and even their swimming pool is wild.
Yeah,
Like that whole
very, like,
thing felt very
intimidating.
Ivy League and old
Yeah.
school and very, very interesting. So we're in there and we got to watch you smash a record.
I didn't smash a record on that one.
Was that
I
was
don't
it a
know.
pool record or
She won something.
What was it?
No, I think it was just a normal swim.
A normal
You-
win?
I don't
A
believe
normal
it. I'm sure
spanking
I'm
of
sure she did something.
enemies?
Like a relay or something?
No, I really don't think I did anything
You won
special,
something. Your name
but
was
I think
at
I
the
won
top.
my event. I think I won my
All right,
event.
you won your event. And then you started smashing records after that. Okay.
I-
That's right. Okay, maybe I'm getting the history timeline wrong, but she
But
definitely
either way,
won,
records
she
were
definitely won
destroyed.
something, and we were like, we have no idea what's going on. But oh, Jenna's name's first, and oh, there she is. The problem is that once you guys suit up and put your little
we
headpieces
all
on,
look the same.
you look
yeah.
exactly
Oh,
the
it's
same.
so tough.
And
Little
every
egg
tan
whites.
girl that walked by were like, "Oh, there's Jenna." No, maybe not. I don't know. It was
That's
very
funny.
hard to tell them
Yeah.
apart. Yeah.
Especially at like meets, it's hard to like know when people are swimming or running. And
Or
so,
even
yeah.
like once they jump in the pool, like keeping track of your swimmer is
Yeah,
also a
yeah.
challenge.
Yeah.
No, like, last name or number on the back. It's hard
If
to
I
keep
take
track.
my eyes off for a second, I'm like, dang it, I lost her. I don't know which one she is.
It's funny.
But it was cool because your name obviously came up on the board, and we're like, no way, she won, she won.
Yeah,
Cheering.
I remember the video, and I actually remember you're like, no way, she won.
That's funny.
In the background.
That's good.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And then after that, like every other week, I was like, Jenna Reznicek smashes this record and that record.
Yeah.
How many records did you break this year?
This year I broke 2 school records
What?
and a couple pool records.
Pool
That's
records
crazy.
for that, whatever
For that,
school you were
yeah.
swimming.
Crazy.
A couple of pool. All right, she said a couple. So we're what at 4 or 5? 5 records this year.
Come on, don't be humble.
Let's hear it. Let's
I
run
know
the
you
list.
know. I know you know.
I
Run
feel
the
like this is not a
stats.
good use of our time. Okay.
No,
so-
it's a great use. You're educating me. I don't know anything about this.
Okay, so I have the 100 backstroke record at Harvard, Columbia,
That's crazy.
Cornell. I used to have it at Brown, but it was broken. And I think there's one more. And then the 200 backstroke record at Columbia.
That's crazy. Our 2 winners for our Word of Life Sweepstakes Challenge are Gabe and Nevea. Congratulations, guys. You both have won a free week of summer camp at Word of Life. We'll be in touch with your certificates for camp. Dang.
Pretty impressive.
That is impressive. Moment of silence for all these achievements.
No, it's the Lord literally was so kind in those blessings.
That
Gave
is
me an
really
able-bodied.
cool.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
able body? What are you, an old person? I don't know. That's
Tom.
like a weird. No, she's the one who's like,
Grandma Tom.
thank you, Lord, for my able body.
Yeah, I would say that again.
All right. Well, that's really, really cool. And you know what? I think all those achievements, while doing the humble thing, it gives you real credibility when you're out there being a Christian leader, frankly. And so I appreciate the fact that while you're experiencing some level of success, that instead of using that as a disguise so that you don't have to be a Christian on campus, that you recognize the mantle of responsibility that came along with that even though it was difficult, that you were going to still be a leader. And I could see on Instagram you were speaking on campus, and that means more to students, frankly, when they see the best of student body standing up for Jesus. If you have faith, it's like, it's a little bit of encouragement to maybe stay in the game,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's really
I think
cool.
that like success kind of led, or also just with athletes, like leads to a greater confidence and a greater network to have impact, and then showing a team and others just like how you do respond and react to different scenarios in sport, whether good or bad. People can notice that because of this success that the Lord has blessed us with.
Yeah. So going back to the Dallas retreat. So on paper, you're different from maybe some of the other girls that were gathered there, but from my perspective, successful in a different way, and still leading as a Christian in your space. So maybe that doesn't reach the millions, but it reaches the 1%.
Yeah.
That's who you're sharing with. And I remember at your Brown event, while there might have only been 30 or 40 kids there, wasn't one of them like Miss Rhode Island or something like that?
Yeah, so she was a part of the ministry that I was in.
I'm just saying, like, these are all the things that happen at a small. There were other athletes in the room. There were other people successful. So we must consider who turned up at these things, not just how many.
Yeah, I think that's one of the blessings about going to Brown for sure.
Yeah.
We're no Avery Ashdown speaking to thousands and thousands or whatever. I don't know what the numbers are, but we get to speak to people who are going to be making such a difference in the world, whether good or bad, or just make a lot of money, whoever it is. Some of the brightest of the bright. I'm not gonna name drop or anything, but like just thinking about the people who go to Brown.
No, let's talk about that, because you shared with me that you met one of Elon Musk's kids, right?
Oh yeah. Good buddy of mine, awesome guy.
Yeah, and you were like, I think you were telling me like you got to share the gospel with him.
Yeah, we've had a couple gospel conversations.
See, like that's crazy to me. Let's talk about that. To me, that fires me up. That's one life, but it's like so interesting.
Well, so yes, like that is such a good thing. But for one, he's just a guy.
Okay.
Right, and so I think it's when you get into the conversations like, oh, it's this person. Like, I mean, yes, but that's just a child of God. That's just a son of God, and that is at its core all that it matters about him. Especially now with the media and all that stuff, that's tough.
Totally.
I'm totally outing him right now, and so if he watches this, then
we haven't said anybody's name.
No, it's fine.
And there are so many kids that Elon has that we don't know which one. There's so many choices.
But just getting more general. Like I've gotten to have conversations with some really cool people. I mean, like in my ministry. I mean, I'll say her name, Caroline Parente. She was Miss Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And like top 5 for like Miss America.
Yeah.
Like awesome, super super sweet girl, super on fire for the Lord. Knew her stuff. She was amazing. It's like that is so cool that we just get to like speak to people like that and like share the gospel, something like that. Obviously she's great with her gospel, but just that type of person that we get to interact with on a daily basis is just such, I mean, the best of the best. These people are like literal geniuses who we get to have a small part in their story.
Yeah.
And I think not often do I get to say we were the tool that the Lord used to bring salvation for these people, but we were very often bricks on the pathway.
Yeah.
And so
but frankly, again, going back to that night in the chapel at Brown, that other young man, football player, like you were telling me, man, I led this guy to the Lord, and I've continued to talk to that guy since then. But he went off in the back to pray and you were back there praying with him. So, using your influence, you're able to reach all kinds of interesting people who have responded to the gospel. Absolutely have. Yeah. Both of you, which is so rad, super rad and worth noting. And it is a hard struggle. And I hope you don't look back on your time here in the Northeast and at Brown and just remember how difficult it was.
I think that's part of it. I think that's something that's so good about what it is. I mean, I am such a better, I hesitate to say Christian, but I've been prepared in ways that I could not have been prepared back home in Texas.
Yeah.
Here than I could have been down there if I'd spent 4 years at UT or Baylor or anything like that, where most of my friends are. I have getting to experience things that they wouldn't even dream about. I mean, I have a ton of friends at Baylor. Some of my best friends are at Baylor. It's a Christian school, complete opposite to Brown. And I hear about their experiences, hear about the Lord is teaching them. It's awesome. I love to hear what they're doing, but it's so different. And it takes a certain type of person to be able to succeed up here. And I think that the tools that we're coming out of this with are invaluable. Yeah. And I think the fact that it was so hard is going to be one of the reasons that I'm going to be so grateful for it, even though I didn't enjoy my college experience like somebody back at UT or A&M or Baylor would.
Yeah, and doing hard things makes you better too.
True.
If you always like skirt around by doing what's easy, you never really get the benefit of the win when you actually. And now you're graduating next week, right?
Yeah, I think just this, all the hardship, it just produces perseverance. I'm thinking about James 1, and so like what we've experienced, I think we won't be in a place like Brown, hopefully, wherever we end up in the future. And so I think like
she said, hopefully, like
hopefully.
No, I do love Brown, but like wow. I think that the Lord just stretched us and taught us and prepared us and was producing something in us as for such a time as this that we will like carry into the spaces we're in later. And I think that it will look different. And so like for now, in the place we're in now, like God wanted us here for now, like now. And like we can learn different things later in different like communities and groups and jobs and places we're in. But I think like there absolutely is a reason that we were in this tough mission field.
Yeah.
Right now.
Totally in the mission field. So you're going to play football in the fall. What else comes next for you, young man?
Yeah, so I am, in addition to being on the football team, and I just stepped down from ministry, but I was part of ministry for a little bit. I am Army ROTC. So that's a pretty big part in my life. So this next month, I'm going to be going up to Fort Knox in Kentucky to do some Army training and testing and stuff. And after that, I'll go into the Army, probably, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's active duty or reserve. But I'm thinking I'll go into active duty Army, do infantry or armor or something like that. So that's a pretty like looming part of my life where I see so many things I could do with my life. I've done stuff with business, I've done stuff with politics, I've done stuff with ministry. I loved all of them. And the Army was never really where I thought my life was going to go. But it's such an honor to serve my country. I think it's necessary for the freedoms that we enjoy every single day. I have a lot of families in the military. My older brother graduated from George Washington, and he was Army ROTC. And so he's at Fort Sill in Oklahoma right now. So I'm just kind of following in the footsteps, and it's a blessing. It's a sacrifice for sure, and I'm not sure exactly where my life is going to go because of it, but it'll be interesting.
That is interesting. What is your degree going to be in?
Economics.
You could do a lot with an economics.
Yeah, that was one of the things that
from
that
Brown.
led me to it. Yeah.
Are you going to try and like stay connected to Brown, like for like a flex and be like, oh yeah, I'm part of the alumni association or something?
There are certain organizations within Brown that I will remain a part of. The football team, for one.
Look at all secretive he's being about this, like Hogwarts or something.
You know what I'm talking about.
Secretive.
So there are. Brown is very liberal, of course.
Yeah.
And the conservative scene at Brown is very limited.
Yeah.
But for those that are active, there are some groups prevalent that make it interesting.
It's like being a part of a communist group in the 50s, huh?
No.
They have a secret doors, secret knocks.
Kind of.
Of sorts. And so I went to, so there's an event called David Network. It is a Christian, Judaic religions, conservative network in D.C. An Ivy League.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. One of the coolest things I've ever done. And so every time I go, I've been twice. It's always at the Museum of the Bible. And because who owns it? The Hobby Lobby guy.
Mr. Green.
Yeah. So he's like owns the Museum of the Bible or is like a big donor or something.
Yeah.
So we always have it there. He comes and talks.
Yeah.
And we get cool speakers. Like Mike Pence came and spoke. We've had a senator, came and spoke this past year. It's always around the March for Life. But I'll talk to people. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm from Brown. And they're like, there are Christians and conservatives at Brown? Like, no way. And so even these people at the other Ivies who go to very liberal schools do not believe that we exist here at Brown. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, anyways, this event was truly awesome. Got me connected more in the political scene. Obviously, like the people who were involved were mainly Christian, but it was mainly a political thing. And I've worked on the Hill for a little bit, and all that's super cool. So
that's cool. So do you think you'll get involved in politics in the future too?
I would love to. So I worked in Senator Tom Cotton's office. He's from Arkansas. And that was awesome. It was such a blessing. That was a great office, super smart guy, Harvard business guy, went in the Army, all that stuff. I think in general, if I was going to go into politics, I would rather go into more defense Pentagon stuff.
Dang.
Maybe like 3-letter agencies stuff. So I don't know. I think military intelligence would be great if I could get into that when I go into the Army. get it some security clearances and all
The
that.
X-Files is more than 3 letters.
No, something similar to that.
I mean, if you could get into like the UAD units and stuff that are studying all this alien stuff that's supposed to be going on in the world today.
Maybe. Honestly, when I go in the Army, I'd love to go Special Forces. I think that's something that I'm thinking about.
It's not as fun. There's no aliens in Special Forces.
Well, I don't know. Like Green Berets could go meet some aliens or
I
something.
guess
I don't know. Who knows?
That's cool, though. That's very cool. So you're going to be all ripped and stuff like that.
Am I not already?
I don't
She's
know.
coming.
Like more oh, Jesus. Flexing?
Sorry.
That's like something you would do, Josiah. That's terrible. Oh, my gosh.
Jenna's
Shameless.
turn.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if she breaks all those school records. She might have some
She's
pretty
gotta.
big muscles.
They're big under here, I promise.
Yeah. It's where she wears baggy clothes.
Right.
She's like trying to be modest. All right, what are you gonna do? You got a what is it? Communications degree? Something like that?
Psychology and
Oh.
modern culture and
Same
media.
thing.
In modern culture and media.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as of now, going back home to Colorado, doing the job search there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. And but graduation's coming next weekend,
Yes.
and you said your family's coming in.
My family's coming down.
So sweet.
Big celebration.
So sweet.
4 years in the works. Yeah.
That's cool. You got any cool places you're gonna take them? Show them around?
Well, they've been a couple of times, right?
They've
This
been a
isn't-
couple
yeah.
times. They've seen all the interesting things.
What do you mean? You can't on 2 visits see all the interesting things in this area?
I think you'd be surprised.
There are not a lot of
Yo,
interesting
chill out.
things.
Wow.
Some of the dining halls.
I guess I'm thinking more broadly in terms of the.
I mean, just in
whole
general,
area.
in Providence, like Providence is nice, but it's only like gets so big,
It's a
especially
very
like
small
campus.
city.
Yeah.
That's true.
Also, like the things that my family would find interesting, what Colorado offers would be way more interesting than what Rhode Island offers.
As far as outdoorsy type stuff.
Yeah, I think they're less interested in seeing like the architecture of the city.
Makes sense. There's cool places to hike in New England, though, for sure.
No, there is. New England has some very beautiful hikes.
I've done some hiking in the Whites and Mount Monadnock. But yeah, I mean,
Not
again,
Colorado.
compared to Colorado,
Yeah.
there's nothing like
Oh
the
my
14.
No
gosh.
14ers or nothing.
She's literally pooping on us. right now, Josiah.
No. So there are a lot of cool things on there.
She's just a hater.
I know, exactly.
Rightfully so, but
When
We
you're
have
that
pizza.
that's
Oh,
true. We have pizza,
pizza.
not in Rhode Island. I've heard
That's true. That's a
that
Connecticut
Connecticut
thing.
pizza is the best pizza in the world.
but absolutely,
It is.
That's what I've heard.
absolutely.
I cannot say pro or not, but that is what.
In
people
fact,
say.
that's what we went and tried to do after your swim meet. Is
That's right.
I took them to Pepe's, the girls that were with me, and the line was going down the street. It was taking way too long to get
Wow.
the pizza. But we actually were in line, and I tapped the guy on the shoulder in front of us to ask how long the wait was. And it was a couple of famous pastors that I knew one of the guys. The other guy, I did know who he was. He's like David Platt's associate pastor.
Oh,
from-
whoa.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a big...
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what's happening right now? And they thought I was messing around because I recognized them, but I had no idea who I was tapping. And
That's
it was
cool.
Like, oh my gosh. So we met them, and then we ended up just going to a random place because it just took
Yeah.
too long. But Sally's and Pepe's are right next to each other. There's always a line down
We'll
going
have
down
to
the
try
street.
it. It's like a Pats and Gino situation.
Dave Portnoy, man.
Oh, who did he rate? Which one did he rate higher?
Sally's.
One by everyone.
Which
knows
I'm
the rules.
I'm fine with that. I mean, because it's it's New Haven against New Haven. So
yeah. No matter what, Connecticut wins.
Connecticut wins in the end. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, anything left on the bucket list to do before you leave the Northeast? Wow,
I really want to go to Maine.
that's cool.
I've heard that Maine's beautiful.
Maine is cool.
That's one of
and
my. That's
They'll give you a run for your money for beauty.
that's
too.
what I've heard. Maine's the one in the top right.
Is Acadia National Park?
Acadian National Park.
Okay, so
Bar-
I've been to Maine.
Bar
Maine is
Harbor.
beautiful.
Bar Harbor, yeah.
Yeah, the East Coast in the summer, beautiful.
Yeah, I'll be here this summer, so I'm excited for that.
So you've been to Maine, and you've done that before. You've not been to Maine yet.
I've not.
It's close
I would
enough to
love
drive.
Yeah.
It's close enough to drive. How about Boston? Have you been up to Boston?
Many times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we go. I've competed there a couple times. She's competed there a couple times, and I've just visited a bunch of times. It's like an
concerts,
hour.
Red Sox games.
It's an hour train away.
Yeah.
And the train's super cheap, and so I've gone. I mean, I go to MIT and Harvard a good bit for events and galas and whatnot.
So fancy, man. I'm like,
We like to-
I
we like
don't
to
even
name
know how to
them fancy
relate to you.
things.
You're like in secret societies,
Oh,
and he's
No.
gonna. I want to be special
Society?
forces and all this stuff.
No, not me.
All this opportunity. Oh, I was an average runner, but 2D1 sports. Jeez Louise.
Jack of all trades.
I know exactly.
Master of none, though.
I don't know about all that. So if you'd have to say like one character development thing that you picked up from these last couple of years of serving in leadership on campus, like what's the biggest takeaway? Like what's the biggest value it's built in?
I think I would say one is patience. I think a lot of time in ministry, you know, ideally you want to like share the gospel or be discipling someone, and then like you see the fruits of your labor just like that. And you know, sometimes you kind of expect like cause and effect, like you do this, they do this, and that's so not what it is in ministry. Like I think we could all agree with that. And so I think one thing I've learned is that seeds that are planted, conversations that are had, sometimes I see, you know, the fruits of that later or never. And so I think like having patience with that, and also knowing that God is doing something in like this big picture of someone's life, and I'm only getting to see a really small part of it. I don't know, you know, how a conversation or how my efforts or how sharing the gospel with someone is going to impact them later. Or, you know, whatever is stirring in their hearts at that time. But just knowing that, like, God is working in ways that I don't know. And he is using efforts in ways that I don't know. And so, yeah, again, just patience in, like, not expecting immediate results from discipleship and leadership.
Yeah, I think I would say knowledgeable boldness. I originally was just going to say boldness, but I've kind of always been like pro confrontation, pro stepping out. But I would often do it just kind of to do it and wouldn't have like good substance behind it. And so I think one of the things that Brown has taught me is boldness is good, but in order to be bold, you have to know what you're talking about. And so I've gotten to have conversations with Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, street preachers, cults, Christians, non-Christians, atheists, like everywhere from one side of the scale to the other side of the scale about pretty crazy things, and confront them when necessary in very real ways. I mean, I've gotten in trouble with my ministry. I've gotten posted on YouTube.
What?
Yeah, I had a
Drop the link, Tom. It's really good.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Okay.
kidding.
No, let's talk about that real quick.
So
Yeah,
there's
that's crazy.
I am not pro street preacher.
Okay.
I am pretty, especially when they come to Brown's campus. I'm pretty.
Do they come to Brown's
very
campus?
frequently?
Oh, really?
Like soapbox preachers.
Oh, really?
Like pretty bad. Like they have like the cameras on their chests and like the microphones on their belts. And
Oh,
they'll
wow.
like be talking.
That's not helping anything.
Not
is
at
it?
all. Like it truly makes our job a lot harder.
Yeah.
So whenever they come, I like to have conversations with them. Somehow, every single time I talk to them, Jenna somehow walks up
Yeah,
at the
so
same
true.
time. I think like 3 or 4 times I've
That's
had these
interesting.
conversations with these people. Jenna's walked up in the middle of the conversation. So one of these times, I was talking to this guy.
That's funny.
And we were having this conversation, and I was basically making the point that what he's doing is not helping campus. What he's doing is hurting campus, and he's not connected to any ministry on campus. And so any good things that he does do, he does it and then just kind of leaves them to their own devices. He doesn't connect them with anything concrete. No church around the area, no nothing like that. And so to me, it felt very performative and very harsh to us. The things he was saying to people walking by were pro-condemnation, not pro-salvation, pro-love. And that there's 100% a place for that. Condemnation is unfortunately, necessary. That is part of the gospel, but it's not the good news of the gospel. And so I walked up to him. I talked about these things, and he was an interesting guy, interesting beliefs. At one point in the conversation, he basically claimed that Jesus did not love everybody, and that just was crazy to me. And so this conversation was pretty interesting, and it was like a 30-minute conversation that this guy, we were going back and forth about methods of the gospel, how to preach, what to say. He claimed you shouldn't say, "Oh, Jesus loves you," to people passing by. And so it was tough. It was a hard conversation. And I completely forgot about it. It was like last fall, last winter, like November, December time, give or take. I think right before Thanksgiving. And I was done with it. I was like, that was a good conversation. Hopefully he got something from it. During that conversation, I had a Muslim girl. I think she was Muslim. Yeah. Yeah. She walked up and she was like, "I always want to listen to the conversation." And I eventually got to get coffee with that girl and give her a Bible, some resources. Haven't talked to her since, unfortunately, but I'm really hoping that through that one conversation that the Lord is working. But one time I was just in one of the dining halls a month ago, like very, very recently. And my buddy was like, "Hey, I was just watching you on YouTube." I was like, "What do you mean you was watching me on YouTube?" And he was like, "Yeah, this guy posted you on YouTube, like your conversation that you had." And so he sent me the link. It's like a half an hour video with like.
Can you send this to me?
Yeah.
It's actually dope.
It's like 700. It's like 700 views of these people just watching me and this guy debate.
What?
Yeah.
On the street?
Yeah, right in front of our campus.
That's wild, bro. I had no idea.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's pretty interesting. It was pretty cool to see because I got to go back and it was like game film. Like watching what I said, seeing how I've grown. I sent it to my parents. She sent it to her parents. My parents sent it to all their friends, and I talked to a ton of people about how I can be better, and I got a lot of good feedback.
And you had no idea someone was recording.
I saw he had a camera on, but I didn't know why he would want to film our conversation. Like I didn't see where
were other people standing around watching this thing? Were you Cliff Connectlying it?
No. I guess with this one girl, I wish. I would love to do that someday. I have a dream, and it's very, very.
Martin.
I think she said that on my birthday. Fun fact. But one of the things I really want to do before I leave is I want to do one of those tabling events where it's just like a sign that's just ask me about Jesus. And just anybody can just come walk up, ask me about Jesus.
That's really
on
cool.
campus when it's super nice outside.
What do we got to do to make that happen?
It's honestly really easy to make happen. I just haven't found the time to do it.
Sounds like an excuse.
I know, totally an excuse. Totally an excuse.
I think we should do it.
Next year, I'm going to do it. Hopefully next fall, if I can find time with football to really sit down and do it.
Let's get Josh and Avery to come up and let's do it.
That would be so much fun.
Let's just do it like that.
I would love to do that.
Because then it'll give you a reason to do it.
Yeah.
And they're now both filming their street.
Yeah, make a video about it or something. Yeah,
awesome.
that'd be really cool.
All right, we're committing to that
Let's
right now. Let's do that in the fall.
Perfect.
All right, that's happening. So, have you had any of your conversations put on YouTube?
No. I learned a lot from watching the video of Zach. I would say that
Jenna makes an appearance in it, actually.
Oh, really?
She's in that
I
video.
passed by, said hi, and then I had to go. I was probably just scared. But I think that Zach makes a really good point about how in boldness you have to know your stuff. And I think that I still believe I have so much growing to do in knowing my stuff. And so I don't know if a conversation I would have with one of those street preachers would be as I don't know if I would honor the Lord much in that just because I feel like I wouldn't.
I don't know. Well, maybe not in street preaching, but I have my own story as well.
Let's hear it.
When I was in grad school, I went to the University of Kent, which is in Canterbury, England. They had something called a freshers fair, and that was where all the freshmen kind of came into some convention hall, and every society on campus would be out there trying to recruit for their stuff. And there was one table. Obviously, our church had a table to let people know about church on campus. As I'm walking through the room, I come across the table that said, "Stop preaching to the choir. join the Atheist Society today. So I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So some of the other Christians were like, yeah, Tom's doing it. We're doing it too. So like we signed up to join. And the first 2 or 3 meetings, like I just joined, right? Like I wasn't doing it to make a stand or to be an obnoxious Christian or to make every single meeting ridiculous. But I think some of the people who signed up with me were like thinking that I was there to like take over. Yeah. And I wasn't trying to do all that. So I remember some of the smarter kids who signed up alongside me. They came in ready to argue. And so that played out over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Then everybody got bored and all the Christians went away. But my wife and I, we stayed locked in and we stayed all year. And I had nothing to contribute to any of the conversations. Those dudes were so much smarter than me. And one week they're going on about string theory. And the next week they're going on about, I remember one time they did a whole thing on Monty Python. I don't know what that has. I don't even know what that had to do with anything. But
Josiah knows that. And Josiah's familiar. I know.
Oh my gosh.
Big Monty Python fan over there.
But what was crazy was like, you know, like I was part of the group. I had voting power. Like I voted for the new president, you know.
That's pretty cool.
And really the work that was done for Christ wasn't really done in their meetings. It was picking them off one at a time and inviting them home for dinner and just hanging with them. And those Jesus conversations would come up either because they were like, dude, why are you still doing this? Like, you don't ever say anything. You don't ever contribute to the discussion. You don't ever push back. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I care about your soul, bro. So, like, I'm here to just love you and hopefully that Jesus will, like, you'll encounter him at some point in this journey. You know, I can't convince you of it. Like, he just needs to show up. And if Jesus shows up and you have an encounter with Jesus, then there's no need for a big discussion. You know, like, here he is. So, like, the cry of my heart, you know, when I'm around people is like, I don't want to convince you of anything. I'm not selling anything. I know God is real. I've encountered Christ and I want to carry his presence with me. But also, I know that if he revealed himself to me, he can reveal himself to you too. So, I would say this to some of these guys. And I remember one of them, he introduced himself. His name was Duncan. He introduced to me as a Marxist, a Marxist agnostic. Like that's how he introduced himself. Hi, I'm Duncan and I'm a Marxist agnostic. I'm like, okay, I'm
what
Tom.
A guy.
And
I'm just Tom.
Yeah, I don't have any extra words. I didn't even know what he meant by that. I was just like, okay, I invite this guy to dinner. And I remember after when he was getting ready to go home, like we're just standing in the entryway to the house and he's like, I really wish I could believe in God, but my parents were splitting, and I remember crying out to him one night in my bed, and there was nothing. Like, there was no answer. And he said, so I don't think there's a God. And I said, how do you know that this conversation right now isn't the answer to that prayer then? And, like, that was it. Like, I didn't say it is. I didn't say, so repent now or whatever. I wish I could say it was a dramatic conversion. I don't think there was, but like, I think I went into those spaces and my purpose was just different because I recognize that if I'm there, that if I'm carrying the Spirit of God, then just presence is enough. Yeah. Like it shifts things. And what was really interesting about the Atheist Society is it kind of culminated. And even though it culminated in this, I'm not even sure I did a great job, but they went all semester. Things were relatively boring, low key. It was just like every other club, maybe worse because they were all nerds, you know. And they were self-proclaimed nerds. They're like, yeah, we're atheists. We're totally nerds, you know. So, because like agnostics aren't combative. They're just like, we don't know. We don't know if God exists. But these guys are like, God definitely doesn't exist, and we're gonna prove it. So, like we come to the end and are like, we've got to do something before this year's over. So like, let's have a real debate between someone who believes in God and someone who doesn't believe in God. And they're like, but we don't know anybody who really believes in God except Tom. Tom, this would be perfect for you. You believe in God. So let's rent the lecture theater and you can go up against our best atheist. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, this is not my thing. So I'm like, okay. And then I called every Bible professor I had in undergrad. Can you prep me for this? And they're all fast fact feeding me all this information that I didn't remember any of it. And I was like so nervous, and I called all my ministry friends for advice. And I was just praying, and they got this like really evangelistic atheist to debate me. And he was meant to go first. And this guy was a horrible guy. Like, he used to walk across campus barefoot, and he would actually go into churches on purpose to cause confusion and disruption. He'd wait for a time of sharing, and then he'd say something confusing and disruptive. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he'd do it to not just mess up the meeting, but like to make people like wonder why they were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was really good at it. Really good. And he'd wait for a time of sharing. He'd walk up to the front and say some stuff. People started recognizing that that's what he was doing and would try and shut it down. But they put me up against this guy. And I was like, this sucks. Oh, man, I'm going to lose. So I'm praying and asking God for help and stuff. And this guy ends up getting up to the front and just like, I don't know if he was nervous or what, but he didn't make any sense. He wasn't. Then I didn't have anything to debate because he didn't say anything. And even the atheists are like, that's the best this guy can do? What is going on? So I just got up there and gave the gospel.
That's
and
awesome.
Then sat down. I didn't have to come up with any fast facts.
Refutations or anything.
This is what I believe. And then I didn't answer something super well when someone had a question. One of the atheists decided to chime in and use the Bible and fill in the gap about what I was supposed to say. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's exactly what Christians believe. Yeah, they believe that. And it's like, oh, man, this is perfect.
Why did I know that?
So God is gracious, you know, even when we're in hostile environments.
Definitely.
And I know your time has come to an end at Brown. You got another year to go. And maybe just want to encourage you in that too. One more tough year.
One more.
But you know what? Like, man, I think the light always shines the brightest in the darkest places. And I really do want to commit that, you know, if you want to go for it and do this table thing, let's show up. Let's do it
I'm there. I think I would love that.
Let's do it because, you know, it just takes a simple yes to see God.
Yeah.
Like to open the door for God to do something. And he loves to use the underdogs and people you're not expecting it to come from. You don't need to get the biggest celebrity there to make a difference.
Yeah.
Sometimes that kind of stuff can be like a prize in the box kind of thing, like a way to get people in the door. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to like just trusting the Holy Spirit to come and do what only the Holy Spirit can do. And that's not down to us.
Yeah.
We can't do that. I've watched you both do the gospel. I watched you get trained by circuit riders to get up and give the gospel. We all went to the mall together, shared the gospel.
True.
Yeah.
It was raining outside. I get just as nervous as you guys. I've been in this space for 25 years. I still get nervous when I have to go out and share the gospel, but it's not down to me. You know, it's down to the Lord, and he's so faithful in it.
True.
You know, so anyway, this has been super fun. I really love the fact that I got to snag you both before everybody runs in different directions. And this also, personally, for me, kind of like gets to build a commemorative moment over people that I've gotten to watch grow and people that I think have mattered to the gospel story of our area. And I think you guys have left your mark here in New England for sure. Like, I'll think back on the 2024 spring outreach, and I'll remember it in good ways.
Very fondly.
I hope you guys are encouraged in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, definitely have left your mark, and I appreciate knowing both of you guys.
Well, we've appreciated knowing you, Tom.
Definitely. It's been a pleasure.
Wicked. Well, thanks for stopping by. Zach and Jenna, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
D1 athletes
So true.
and raving New England evangelists. We can put you amongst our numbers
It's
because
an
there's
honor.
only like 5 of us. All right. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us,
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you.
Next week on the Gospel Cast, it's our season finale with the lovely Sia Cloud. Don't miss it.